All right, seriously, Suzanne here about why I decided to become a homeschooler. Did I decide? I did. I decided. I'm like, wait, how did that happen? So I was a public school teacher back in the day before babies. Do y'all remember? Before babies? We had a life, didn't we? We had a different life. Not that I'm not saying we don't have a life now. I'm saying we had something, right? We were humans before these people came and defined us as mothers. What a blessing to be defined as a mother. So before we had babies, Brad and I got married in Waco Texas, and I became a public school teacher. I was going to school for education to become a Spanish or public speaking teacher, speech, interpersonal communication, or English as a second language, which was my real goal, was English as a second language. I never got to teach that in school. I taught it to adults, but I never got to teach that in public school ever. So I became a public school teacher. I loved it. I was going to change everything from the inside out. The reason I became a teacher, I didn't want to be a teacher. I wanted to be a missionary. But my husband pointed out that nobody was going to pay me to pray if something should happen to him. And so his concern was, if something should ever happen, I would need some sort of degree. I was getting a degree anyhow. How about I get something that was fairly secure? So being a school teacher, always needed. So I did that. I taught public school. I retired when baby number one surprised us in 2001. I was super excited about having our first child. We were shocked. We did not expect to do that for 7 years, but it happened faster than we expected. And so I left to stay home with the baby. I did not mind my school years. It was great. It was hard. I cried every day. I cried every day because the atmosphere was really oppressive. And the kids were hard. I was in a kind of a high at-risk type school arena. I mean, it wasn't that bad. It was a third white, a third Hispanic, a third Black. So it was a really diverse, racially diverse school. The kids were great. I taught Spanish so that if you didn't do well in regular classes, you weren't allowed in Spanish. So I had kind of the cream of the crop kids in junior high and in high school teaching. And then when I quit, I really missed it. I just loved teaching. I didn't miss all the paperwork and all the time wasting and all the red tape. And I got in trouble a lot because I would talk about Jesus a lot in class. If the kids asked me, I didn't bring it up, but if the kids asked me about my faith, then man, they knew how to get me to segue. And I would talk about my faith. And so I got in trouble a lot with the police. The principal, with the principal. So when I was home, y'all, I was kind of bored. I was used to managing 85 students a week. And so it was a little bit boring. I dusted the blinds, I painted the rooms. I was a really good cook. I became a really good cook. I wasn't the first 4 years, but then when you're at home and you just have this baby who just kind of rolls over. I mean, I was tired, but it was just a little bit boring for me. I'm sorry, people that makes them mad, but it was. So that summer when he was 7 months old, he was born in December, I started thinking about teaching again, but I didn't want to leave him. I didn't want him to go to daycare or anything. So I thought maybe one day a week. And I'd heard about these people called homeschoolers. And I thought they were a little, I don't know, off. I thought, what kind of person thinks they can teach their own kids? Because I had a degree and it was hard. So I sent a little email out to the humans that were called homeschoolers. And I said, hey, does anybody want a tutor or a small class in Spanish? I really miss teaching. The next morning, I had 42 replies, which was a lot back then. I went, oh, wow. So I had a meeting at a church. Anybody that's interested? And people started writing checks to me. And I looked at my husband who had joined me. The baby was at my mother-in-law's house, and he thought it was just amazing. People were handing me money to teach, and they didn't even really know me. So I started classes, private classes at a little toy store that had like a tutoring room here in Bryan. And the students leaned forward and asked questions and thanked me for class. I was shocked. I did not know that people would like appreciate a lesson. I didn't know I like in public school, I had to really be very entertaining and like kind of trick them into laughing and really work hard to get their excitement going, and they would, but it took so much effort. And so when I taught homeschoolers, and they were just, oh, yes, ma'am, and grateful and enthusiastic. And so I taught to the parents afterwards, and I said, what have you done with these children, these students? I want my baby, who is 9 months old at that point, to turn out like this, because in the public schools, I didn't know that teenagers could be like that. I mean, there were a few, one or two per year, that would engage and make eye contact and speak and be polite. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. But mostly it was me, here's the consequence. If you don't treat me this way, here's this. And I would have to push them and, this is what I expect. And I'll be your friend if these things happen. But all these students came like ready-made, sweet, interested, enthusiastic, and wanting to please me. So I didn't know that teenagers could be that way. And I knew my teaching style at that point hadn't changed. So the parents all said, every one of them, I mean, I don't know, we just homeschool. And I was like, boom, I became a homeschooler. And so that was the beginning. I never put my kid in kindergarten, which was the plan. You stay home, wait till the baby turns 5, put them in kindergarten, you go back to teaching. That was the plan. Instead, we saw the children as blessings, which I already did, but I didn't know how much of a blessing, because I don't know, I was going to function as an entity. I am the mother, these are the children, I fulfilled this job, they fulfilled that job. But because of homeschoolers and homeschooling, it was all relational. Wow, what an amazing thing. So I became a homeschooler. I had 5 kids, 4 more kids after that, and they've never set foot in a public school. So, and then because I was teaching all these high schoolers and middle schoolers, some little kids too, but mostly high schoolers and middle schoolers, all of my friends were their parents, right? So I'm hanging out with moms of high schoolers when I had a 9-month-old. And then all of my friends were 10 to 15 years older than me. And so, of course, I'm asking them, how do you do this? What about that? Okay, your child did this weird thing in class today. So I have never had a freak out moment of, are my kids going to turn out okay? Is this a bad idea or a good idea? What's wrong, or could I possibly mess up here? I never had that, because I've been blessed to be around high schoolers the entirety of my motherhood. So I never worried, because I knew that he was going to turn out great, just like these other kids. And so from Mitch to Jake to Anna Gail to Audie, and then down to Liesel, the blessing of older women constantly around me is a great perk, a great privilege that I've had through the entirety of the time. So I recommend to you, if you're just starting out, if you're a new mom, yes, having moms that are the same age as you is nice, but that's not where the benefit is. And older women are very happy to give you advice. Their advice won't always work with your children. A lot of times it won't, but it's a starting spot. And if you're teachable, your life will be much smoother. And so I really attribute a lot of our success as parents to the idea that my husband was willing to let me take on another job. And I do say we both had the expectation of me staying home full time. And it was kind of a shock to him that why would I want to, why is it not fulfilling enough? And it wasn't that it wasn't fulfilling. I just really missed teaching. And my poor 9-month-old, I had him doing flashcards before he could sit up. I mean it. Isn't that terrible? He just has a small twitch now. He's fine. He's great. So that's how I became a homeschooler, because I met homeschoolers. So if you're on the fence and you're wondering, hang out with some moms of teens, not the little kids. They're all weird, right? We're like, oh, is that kid weird because he's a homeschooler? No, that kid's weird because he's a kid and he's allowed to be weird. He's allowed to be who he is. Thank you, Lord, that we can let them be who they are. So that's been my journey, and still continuing on. We have 4 years left. My baby is now in 9th grade, and my oldest graduated a couple years back. So 3 left, 2 down, 3 to go. Hope that helps you. Seriously, Suzanne.